Went through a small town in Joplin, Missouri. As part of the relief effort to help the people of Joplin, there was a mission team that went out from our area that was led by Jim Bickford and the folks up at Oakland United Methodist Church up in Johnstown, PA. We had the privilege of sending a couple of our own members with them to Joplin. Debbie Friday and Randy Dagenkolb went with Jim Bickford and his team. And this morning we have the opportunity to hear back from Jim and Randy and Debbie and Tina and I believe there was another lady, Marion Cush, who was supposed to be here this morning. Later on at 11 o'clock, Bill and Velvet Patrick will be joining Jim and his wife. And I'm going to invite Jim to come forward now to share the story of their journeys and some of the great things that they were able to do for the people out there.
Good morning, everybody. I'm so pleased and glad to be here and share with you this morning. The trip to Joplin, there were 39 people that went from all over the conference, from Pittsburgh, from Greensburg area. It was scattered all over the conference. We did, in 5 days, 1,515 man-hours of work, which I think is pretty incredible. I have some pictures of the trip. This is the first house that we went to, and I might add, we did a plethora of repair work. And a little sidelight, because Randy is involved in construction, or purported to be, I asked him to be the construction captain, so to speak. And he did a good job. He really did. Although, of all the people that got injured, he was injured the most. Okay. This house was sort of a unique story. Right after the tornado, this was right on the edge of the kill zone. It was very, very badly damaged. The foundation was moved slightly, and all the windows were blown in. The roof had caved in, and it was the whole inside had to be redone. Right after the tornado, a gentleman came to the lady's house and said, "You know, I'm a contractor. I'll give you a bid." So he gave her a bid, and he said, "Well, I would like half to start it." So she gave him half, which was like $8,000 or $9,000, and she never saw him again. That was fairly common right after the tornado. In this house, we were finishing up. This was a house that we did finish. What we did was, there's windows. That's a trapdoor, which they made into a tornado bait cellar. Putting on the trim, doing finishing touches. One of the things we did at this house is put a backsplash of ceramic tile. And Denny was measuring and putting on the backsplash. Cleaning out the air ducts. Now this is unique. On the right is Marion Cush. One of the things that our team, two team members did was went to the local school and helped in the library with the children, which I thought was really neat. And of course, there's Miss Debbie working in the library. Outside of the school, in Joplin, they now have tornado-proof shelters. And these are the shelters that the students would go into in case a tornado came. Debbie, I think, would be able to tell you better the atmosphere. The night before they went to the school, there was a major thunderstorm in the area. A lot of violent lightning. And the atmosphere within the school, the children were extremely distraught. This is another house. This was not in the kill zone. This is pretty far away from the kill zone. But people who were left homeless had to find other homes. And this is a home that we worked on outside the kill zone for someone to move into. Electrician. These guys were great. They went to about 7 or 8 different homes to do the electrical work. On the right is Father Doug. Our church acts as another church also, St. Matthew's Evangelist. You know what I mean. And he is the priest there at St. Matthew's. And that is one of his parishioners. This is Joplin High School. This is one of the very few areas that they have not cleaned up. What amazed me when we got there is that all of the debris, everything was gone. All the debris had been cleaned up in less than a year. This is one of the very, very few areas that had not been cleaned up.
And Jim,
yes.
if you don't mind, they lost, what, 3 schools?
Yes.
3 schools altogether, and that was one of them?
Yes.
Okay.
That was the high school, yes. I have pictures later I'll show you of the hospitals. I thought this was great on one of the walls in a town. Faith, hope, and love, but the greatest of these is love. Notice the bandage on the heart. I thought that was very, very cool. This is what remains of a Catholic church. The only thing that withstood the tornado was the cross. The church was completely destroyed except for the cross. This is a major medical building that housed many, many doctors' offices. This was basically right across from the hospital. This is one of the few buildings that has not been demolished yet. This is the hospital. As you can see, the top floor was partially ripped away. Every window in that building was gone. Now, this tells you how powerful the storm was. The entire hospital, and this hospital was bigger than Memorial in Johnstown, was moved 4 inches off of its foundation. Putting in doors. Okay, we've done windows, doors, we've done flooring, electrical work, putting in doors. Painting. This is Father Doug's wife, Wendy. Putting in trim around windows. We're doing siding around the house. Putting in flooring. This was our nurse. Randy saw her quite a lot. In fact, Randy, is that your hand there?
No, it's not my hand.
Okay. This is the team.
I deny it.
We got T-shirts, and we were thinking about wearing our T-shirts today, but you get the idea. Now, this was everybody behaving, right? And this is not behaving. One of the things that Randy was sort of put in charge of, one of the homes, the foundation around underneath the house had sort of buckled. This was real close to the kill zone. And for the past 6 months, teams that have been in Joplin refused to do this job. Well, we took it on. Under Randy's direction, they jacked the house up, removed the buckled wall, and then using masonry skills, put the wall back in. And you can see how what they did, they braced it up. The women worked right alongside the men. This is doing some sheetrock. Putting in windows, siding. This is my first experience. Randy, what's that called?
It's a paint sprayer.
Paint? Well, no. Plaster.
Oh, plaster.
What's that called? Knockdown or whatever?
Yeah, you spray it on and knock it down.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
This is, and I had never done this before. So the guy that was doing this, he was a professional. I asked him if I could try it. And so this is my experience of doing plastering. The women building a deck. One of the unfortunate things, a couple, a team member, a man and his wife, they're from up north, and they decided to drive themselves instead of coming down to the church. It had been a waste of time for them to come down. They live somewhere around Erie. For them to come down to Johnstown and then drive to Joplin. So they drove on their own. When they hit St. Louis, that's when there was a tremendous hailstorm with baseball-sized hailstones. And their car went through the storm. It's difficult to see, but there are a bazillion dents in their car from the hail hitting it. Fortunately, now the windshield was totally shattered. So they had to stay overnight in St. Louis. The next day, they got a windshield repair guy, came out to their motel, put a new windshield in, and they continued out to Joplin. This is the all-purpose room where we ate our meals and had our meetings at the church where we stayed. This is Annie. Annie goes to Oakland, and she is currently in college, and she is on a sort of sabbatical from college. She took a job at Walt Disney World, and she is currently working at Walt Disney World as part of a work-study program. She's an expert on doing spackling.
Jim, I'm just going to throw something into that last picture. This house really took a tremendous amount of damage, and some things had already been done, like interior drywall. But a lot of things had to be redone, or the house had to be jacked up, and new foundation wall and flooring, and etc. When we jacked that house up, we buckled that wall. We didn't mean to. And here, we kind of said, it's amazing on a work team, people come forward with skills just at the right moment. We said, who could fix those corners? And she just kind of volunteered and said she would tackle that. And for the next day or two, that's what she did. She just tackled those corners and got them all cleaned up. And but some things, on a job like that, you try to fix something and then you try to fix something else and you cause damage to what you first fixed. So, but she was really tremendous on that job. We had about 38 people, Jim. 39 folks altogether. But they really worked hard on that job.
Yes. I would like to mention, at any time when I'm going, if you have a question, please, you let me know. This is an interactive kind of thing. One of the unique things is the Joplin newspaper is owned by the same company that does the Johnstown Tribune Democrat. So a reporter came by, saw them working, and so did a story of our team working on this house. And there, of course, there's Randy. And on the right is Dave Webb, who goes to Oakland. He was very handy also. And that's the owner of the house, is that correct?
It is. And Dave works for the Tribune Democrat in Johnstown.
Yes, he does.
So he had a connection there somehow. But that is the owner there of the house in the middle.
So this is the actual article in the Joplin newspaper of them working on the house. And there, as you can see, is the finished product of the wall being in. This was our kitchen team. And I have to tell you, I'm so proud of my wife. She was one of the cooks. We ate like kings. I mean, everybody gained weight. Mary's on the left, then Velva Patrick, which maybe some of you know. Who's the one? Is it Judy?
Judy.
Judy, and then Tina, and then Bill Patrick, and who's on the left?
Denny? Yeah, Denny Bowserman.
Right.
Yeah.
Denny Bowserman, right. Okay.
And Bill and Velva. Bill would be Lori Limerick's uncle, I believe.
Okay, well.
In our church, they know Lori.
Okay.
But Bill, Patrick, and Velva, relatives of Lori.
This was another house that we worked on, putting trim around the windows and putting up new posts in the front. This is a garage that was totally blown away, and we were completely redoing from scratch the garage. Here's Bill Patrick, which some of you know, using his handy skills. This is a unique picture. These three, that's Steve, Tom, and Chris, they go to Oakland. They are standing on 3 states right there. You may say, well, how can that be? Well, we're Missouri, Oklahoma, and I think Kansas come together at that corner. You can see that they're standing on 3 states at one time. Joe, it was his birthday while we were there, so the ladies in the kitchen made a cake and we wished Joe happy birthday. This is a visit from the Bible. In our Oakland, we have a drama team, which Tina and I are both members of the drama team. Our drama team does short 7, 8, 9-minute dramas about once a month that enhance the pastor's message for that day, that Sunday. So what I did, I do a monologue of Jonah. And so this is me as Jonah, basically doing a monologue about the book of Jonah and how Jonah was really the first missionary sent by God, international missionary. This is Father Doug. He was just so invaluable. We did devotions every morning and every evening. And thank you. Again, this is, I really would like this to be interactive. So does anyone have any questions? Comments? Yes, sir.
Do you remember the statistics as far as how big that tornado was?
Yes, sir. It was 1 mile, the kill zone, 1 mile wide, and went for 8 miles.
So when you make a comparison with the hospital that was hit, being larger than Memorial Hospital up in Johnstown, that hospital consumes 2 city blocks.
Yeah.
Which was maybe, this tornado was probably 5 times larger than that.
Yes. At least. Yes.
There were 162
162
were killed in that. And there was 8,000 homes either damaged or had to be torn down because of that tornado. It was an F5 tornado.
That's that right, F5. One of the unique things that one of the coordinators told me is that 80 to 85% of the homes in Joplin are rented. And the people that live there do not own them. Now, I guess that's because it's such a transient kind of community for some reason. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Where did you stay?
We stayed at a Methodist church. They were absolutely fabulous. It was a larger church, and all of their classrooms that they have, they were using as bedrooms. So they converted all the classrooms, and everybody basically brings an air mattress. And they had a couple of rooms for married couples. Then they had a room for males and a room for females. By himself.
Mike is saying I stayed with the nurse. Enough of that. I think there was 10 guys in my room. I stayed in a room with like 10 guys. We had, you said 39 altogether.
Yes.
Okay. And I was thinking back to the picture with Debbie. All those books that were being cataloged, Debbie, those were books all those books were given and had to be, because they had lost everything. So they were trying to rebuild a library. And there was just so many things that you didn't think about with a tornado. If you lose everything, where do you start? And it just had to start from scratch, you know, and just build everything from the ground up. A lot of the things that we got into were half finished. Homes that,
Other teams, yes.
yeah, other teams that had been there. And I forget how many hundreds of other teams had been in the area working and doing things. But I think that tornado, Jim, happened a year earlier,
Yes.
a year before we got there.
Yes. In the month of March, we were there April 29 to May 5. In the month of March alone, there were over 1,700 volunteers working in Joplin in the month of March alone. So there's quite a few volunteer groups, churches, organizations that were sending teams. In fact, there was such a lineup of teams to want to go that there was a waiting list for where to stay, because they were just full, which is, I guess, a good thing. So, Debbie, would you like to say anything?
I was on your day.
But you have, I'm sure you have some observations. Randy, can you give me the mic, please?
What impressed me the most was how in the school, when I was there for that day, the teachers were so patient with the kids. There was no raising of their voices. Very patient, very caring. The kids were well behaved, and one of the reasons was they said that, you know, they was trying to some of those kids was riding the bus a couple hours to get to the schools because they had been removed from their areas of school, and they was trying to keep them back in their locations with familiarity to them. And they had opened up an old school that they had closed down because it was in such poor condition, and they had to reopen it because they lost one of their schools. But the kids and the teachers were amazing with those kids.
Well, Jim originally just was going to have 20 people on this trip, and then applications kept falling in there to our address of people wanting to help, and they were contractors. And it was just, you know, Taryn was thinking, oh, we really want these people. And so it worked out. It was double the paperwork, double the hours you spent. You know, there's a lot of paperwork that goes into this. And when is going to be your next trip?
Well, I'm going to backtrack. Last year, I was on a conference-sponsored trip to the country of Colombia in South America. We started the construction of a brand new church. And Pastor David Staines, I don't know, you know Pastor David? He contacted me. They're going back down in April of this coming year to continue work on that church. Now, last year, it's hot. I have to tell you, in Colombia in that time, it's extremely hot, very, very humid, and I'm at the age where my body's telling me I have to slow down. So I sort of said to Pastor Dave, I said, Dave, I got sick last year. The heat was so intense that I was getting nauseated and all that. And I said, David, I think this is my last trip. It's just too hot. Well, I'm going again, so. But anyway, we're going down. And what we are looking for, what we're doing is putting up walls. So we're looking for 2 masons, bricklayers, who can really do the brunt of the work. Because that's what we're doing, putting up the walls. So, if you know of a good mason bricklayer, we'd love to have them. Any other questions? Comments? Yes, sir.
What dates are you having?
It is April, I think it's either 8 or 9 to 17. April, I think it's 8 to 17. Now, I know for contractors and masons, that's a busy time of year. That's when you really get into starting homes and so forth. I understand that. So we sure do need a couple bricklayers. Yes, ma'am.
What are the showers made out of? They look like
They are bolted into the ground, and they were tested. Winds that are 500 miles an hour cannot move them. The walls were about 8 inches thick of cement. They are indestructible.
They actually make the kids do, like we have fire drills up here, they actually make the kids do drills in both those and 6 inches.
One of the other ladies that worked at the school with Debbie told me that when that morning after that there was that severe thunderstorm, that there were actually children who were very, very distraught, were crying. They came actually really scared. The tornado has really had a very emotional impact on the young children.
Even that night, they had the church open for other activities, and there was women coming in for some type of exercise class.
Oh, yeah.
And they was even, I mean, this was in the daylight hours, they was even still at that time, in fact, it was 6, 7 o'clock in the evening, talking about how upset they was from that school, because they all had some type of alarm system in their homes now that was going off through the night.
Debbie just mentioned something that Joplin now have an alarm system in their homes that is tied up to their emergency management system from the city that will go and alert every home that there is an impending tornado.
Jim, one more thing. Where that cross stood that remained standing and the church was destroyed, if you could have seen the view from that cross of all the homes that were destroyed and gone and the hospital destroyed, and that's exactly, I think, where they built those 5... The memorial and also those 5 homes.
Okay.
Yeah.
The TV show, Complete Makeover, maybe some of you have seen that. Well, what they did is the TV show went into Joplin, and they did a complete makeover in the kill zone. They rebuilt 5 homes in the kill zone. Absolutely beautiful homes. And each home had a different motif or theme. One was country western, one was like southwestern, one was country, so they had different motifs. Absolutely beautiful homes.
But that devastation, where that, it's amazing that the cross overlooked probably the worst of that whole thing.
Any other questions? I would like to thank you so much for having us here, and it's great being here.